Hello and welcome to Model Train Fun. This is the fifth video in the six-part series about signals, and today we are going to look at light signal. It's a very specific light signal. It's the one where we have a combination of the home signal and a distant signal on the same mast. For this I got this signal here, which is the 76496. This is a 4-aspect signal, so it has stop, proceed slowly, and then switching as well on the same one. And that's only the home signal part. On the distant signal, of course, it will have at least the 3 aspects, which are prepare to stop, prepare to proceed, and prepare to proceed slowly, which it will use for the following signal. So all in all, we will have a more complex setup we will look at. So I have it here. So imagine the train is coming from over here and going to that side. So the signal in question we are looking at is the one here in the middle. This one here has the home and the distant signal on the same mast. As it has a home signal, of course we can put a distant signal in front of it. So we are going to look at how do we hook up the distant signal to this particular signal. The other thing we're going to look at is, well, it has a distant signal, which of course would mirror the following home signal. So how does it sync up with that one, right? So all in all, we're going to have 3 signals that needs to be in perfectly harmony and synchronized for the operations to be believable and prototypical. As always, when you are installing signals and other electronics on the track, remember to do it with power off, so no power to the tracks. Enjoy the video. Alright, let's look at the signal and get it unboxed. So the one I have here is the 76496. Remember, the installation will work for the 495 and the 497 as well. We have the signal here, where it's a 3-aspect home signal with the distant signal on the mast. Let's open it up. We have the manual, and as you can see, it applies for all the 3 signals I mentioned before. We have the warranty card. In the bottom here we can also find an extra box of goodies. Oh, it fell down. Here it comes. So in the extra box of goodies we got all the items we need, additional wires, additional connections for various track types, stickers as well for the signal, the decoder itself, and then we have the signal. Let me try and pull it off here, pull it out. Okay, so the signal already comes with the C-track, so it can easily be attached to C-track. Let's first look at how to connect the signal to the decoder. So the first thing we do is we grab the decoder, we take it out, make sure to only touch the plastic. When you turn it around, don't touch any of the electronics in here. So we're going to hold this up. I'm going to look in the manual. I have the drawing in the manual for how it needs to be connected here, and you see it's aligned in the same way where we have the big square box down in the corner. And you see the top connector over here is the one that goes to the signal. On the other side, on this side here, that's where it goes to the track power, so the red and brown wire. So let's connect the signal first. So we have the signal here, and that needs to go to the top one here. I'm not gonna unwrap it, I'm just gonna plug it in. Remember, this is like all the other signals, there's a groove here. We need to make sure it fits over in this one in the groove as well. It kind of looks like the groove is a little to the top. So it means it needs to go in like this. You basically just press it gently in. You may have to hold it here on the plastic, and it gives a little click, then it's in. So we're good. Now we just need track power to the other side. I have the track power cable here, so that's the brown and red. Again, we have a little connector with the groove, also with 2 holes in it. We take it here, so I'm holding it as before, so up here we got the signal, so that means over here we need the track power. Looks like it goes in like this. So basically again, just gently push it in. You hear it gave a little click, and now it's attached. So we got it here. Cool. Let's also connect a distant signal to this home signal. So we have this one here I used in the video about distant signals. We have the plug here as well, which needs to be plugged into the decoder, if you remember from that video. In order to figure out where we need to plug it in, let's go back, look at the manual for the distant signal. We look in here, we find the connection diagram again. We have the decoder here, we connected the power to one side, we connected the signal to the other side. And then you see the plug here just below, that's actually for the distant signal. So let's go back and do that. So we have the decoder here again. We unplug it, again careful, not touching the electronics. So it's basically this one here we need the distant signal plugged into. I have that one here, so we need to plug it in there. Let's see if I can get it. Not having much success. Okay. Again, we press it in gently till it gives a little click, and it's there. Now we got that one. So now we got both signals connected to the decoder, both the home signal with the distant signal and a distant signal to that. We got everything connected. Excellent. We put the decoder back in the box again. Basically just press it in place. Now we need to connect the power, and the red wire always goes to the B and the brown wire goes to the 0. I have my track here, and you can see over here is the B and here's the 0. So here I have the red wire. It goes into the B. Remember, this side up, the flat side down. So I connect that here. Okay. I need the brown wire here, connected in the same way but on the 0. So I connect that over here. All right. Make sure they're properly attached. Excellent. And now, well, I have a mess of signals here. Now let me just, for this one here, remember I can connect the signal to the C track here by first hooking on this side, bending and swooping it back. So I do that. I basically slide it under. You see it hooks over here. I bend the entire signal and then I swoop it back. And then we got it connected. I can then connect the distance signal. I connected to here on a track a little further down, so I'm just going to give it a little distance. I do it again, slide it under, and I swoop it up, and now we got both of our signals here ready for testing. Let me first show how to use it with the Mobile Station 2. In order to use it with the Mobile Station 2, we need to program it with a dip switch. However, this has a lot of constraints, and you really need to think about what you're doing with this particular signal. And why is that? Well, because remember, we in essence have two signals on here. We got the home signal and the distance signal. And we need to make sure that the decoder understands the address both for the home and the distant part. So in order to do that, we'll go back and look at the manual again. If we look at the manual here, here's a little drawing. It's not too well explained, but it actually shows what you need to know. So what it shows here is that this address here is the address we can set on the dip switch of the signal. So this could be address 5. So the signal here showed in this example is the 76496, which is a block signal. That one only has stop and proceed. When it only has stop and proceed, there's only one address. So this signal only has one address. Then what you need to make sure is the next signal down here. So the next home signal has the sequential address, because if that has the address right after, which is address 6, then this one here will actually understand, or it will automatically actually assign the distance signal to the following address. So for the signal we're looking at, we need to set the address. That will be the address for the home signal part of it, but on the mast, the distance signal will be the following one, and we need to coordinate it with the next signal. The idea is then that when you change the next signal, then that will also change the home signal. Sorry, the distance signal here. All right. So what I have here is a 3-aspect signal. So this one has stop, proceed, and proceed slowly. That means this one takes 2 addresses. So contrary to the drawing, now we have 2 addresses here. I also, the signal here I have on the mast also have 2 addresses, right? Because this is the 76496, which is actually an exit signal. So this one has stop, proceed, proceed slowly, and switching. So it actually fully occupies 2 addresses. So in order to do the same as before, I need to assign this one an address. It will occupy 2 addresses. Then I need to make sure the distance signal fits with the following home signal, which also takes 2 addresses. So if we go back and look at the following home signal, which is this one has address 27. Okay, so since I have this one here with both of them, and the following signal has 27, then this one needs to be 25. Why? Because it will occupy 2 addresses, 25 and 26, and the next sequential one must be 27, so it gets paired with the distance signal. So as you can see, there's a lot of things you need to think about when you're only using the Mobile Station 2. This will be easier with the Central Station 3, right? Okay, so I need to program this signal now to address 25 so it matches with the following home signal for the distance signal here, which is 27. So we go back and look at our dip switch here. That's this one here. So we need to set that one. In order to do that, we go back to the manual again. And do remember, you must have the manual for the correct signal. So we go back to our table here. We remember the first thing we need to do is to make sure that the dip switch 10 needs to be set to either Märklin or DCC. If we look at the table here, we can see up here that it says basically 0, which is FX, which is Märklin, 1 is DCC. I want Märklin, so that's 0. I need to look here for the address. Remember, I wanted 25, so I go down, I go down, I go down, I go down, and here I find 25. So 25, and then I need to go over not this column, but the next column, because this is the one you see where the dip switch is. Okay, so 25, that's 1, 4, and 5. And then I need to remember to set to Märklin, so number 10 needs to be 0 or off, right? So 1, 4, and 5. All right. So we have the dip switch here. Let me see if I can turn it around. It's difficult to hold all of this. So I have the dip switch here. You see number 10 is here at the end. Number 10 is actually off, so that's good. The only one that's on is actually number 1. Was that the one we wanted on? I already forgot. So we go back to the manual again. So 25, it says 1, 4, and 5. Okay, 1, 4, and 5. So 1 we want it on, it's already on, that's good. And then we need 4 and 5, so 2, 3, 4 is here. So I press it up. Oh, that was number 5 I pressed up, and now sorry, it's a little hard here when you're on the video on the camera. So 1, 4, and 5, and number 10 is off, so it's set for Märklin. All right, let me set it all up. I've set up all the signals here. So the signal we are actually looking at is the one in the middle here, which is the 76496. It has the home signal and the distant signal on the same mast. We have the distant signal here, which is hooked into the same decoder over here as the combined signal with the home and distant. So this distant signal is actually going to show the status of the home signal here, and the distant signal here on the combined signal will show the status of the signal you see furthest away on the home signal there. What we see right now is the distant signal here is showing 2 yellow, which indicates prepare to stop. We can see that the home signal is red, so that's basically stop. Whenever the home signal is red, the distant signal will not show anything. This is to avoid confusion. Imagine if the next signal was actually green and this one showed prepare to proceed, and the main signal will show stop. That would actually be a little weird. So whenever the home signal shows red, then it basically turns off the distant signal. So let's try and use the mobile station to see what we have here and see how we can use the signals. Do remember we have to press the turnout button here to get to the accessories. And remember the address for this signal was 25, so we have to find that. We can do it by changing up here, up top. We can change. We can also hit Shift and then turn the knob and then jump till we get close to 25, and then we can adjust it. So now we got address 25 over here, and we got address 26 over here. So address 25 is the one where we have stop and prepare to proceed. Address 26 is the green down here is prepare or proceed slowly. And the one up here is for the switching operations. So I'm gonna off camera click on the green here. So you see green here for 25, the button right next to it. I'm gonna click on it off camera, and we'll see what happens. Okay, it turned green, so we saw the distant signal here now showing prepare to proceed, and the home signal down here actually shows proceed, so everything works as expected. I will click on the red up here to go back to red, so address 25 and the button out next to the red here. I'll click that one off camera, and we see it goes back to the same situation as before, where we have prepare to stop and then stop down here. All right, now let's try the other functions of the signal. So here we have address 26. Let me try the green, which is prepare to proceed slowly. I hit the button next to that, so that's this one over here. I'm gonna do that off camera. And you can see the distant signal says prepare to proceed slowly, and the main signal says proceed slowly. All right, then we only have one final left to try, address 26, the red here, and that should be the switching operation. So that's the top button here. I'm gonna click on that one. And you can see now the distant signal actually shows stop, because it is actually stop the home signal, but shunting is allowed. So that's what the white ones indicate here. However, if we go back, I'm gonna go back here to the proceed over here on address 25. So I'm gonna click on that off camera. So now we have prepare to proceed and we got proceed. I was saying before, now we should see something on the distant signal. However, we don't. So it seems like whenever the signal is delivered out of the box, it actually is set such that the distant signal is turned off. All right, so how do we turn it on? We go look in the manual. So I have the manual here. Oh. So this is the manual. Let's try and find the English section. There's German here, here's English. The interesting part is here. So if we look here, we can actually set some parameters for the distance signal. And down here as 46, we can set the signal type for the distance signal. You see, we can choose between 2, 3, and 4, which is either block signal, entry signal, or exit signal. If we look here, so the signal we got down there furthest away, that's actually an entry signal. So what we want to do is in this CV46, we want to put in a 3 for entry signal. Such that, and that will actually turn on the distant signal here on this mast. However, one thing I couldn't really figure out, there is some text here that explains how to do it. So let me just show you. Okay, we got it here. So where is it? Here it talks about during the programming procedure the signal will blink, that's okay. If we want to use the mobile station, it actually talks about here that we need to make a dummy locomotive so we can change the CVs. And it says something about activate the signal once, change the CV settings, and then switch the signal once more or one more time. I actually did not succeed in this at all. So if any of the viewers have success with this, please let me know. However, there's a different way we can try. We can try and turn it into DCC mode and then do it that way. Okay, the way to turn it into DCC mode is, well, first I need to take my mobile station, put it in stop, so there's no power to the track, and you see there's no power here. Now we can go ahead, I need to find a screwdriver. We can take the decoder here for the signal. Let me just see, can I move it a little closer to the video camera here? Yes, I can. So we have here the decoder we were looking at before. So what I'm just going to do is the last one here, number 10, I'm just going to flick that up. And what does that do? It actually enables DCC instead of Märklin. So what I intend to do is to turn on the distance signal using DCC, and then I'll just turn it back to Märklin afterwards, and it will retain the setting. All right. So before I start programming the signal, there's one more very important thing I need to make sure of. Whenever you do program using the mobile station, make sure there's only one decoder on the track. And as you see now, I got two signals. I got my home and distance signal combo, and I got my home signal down there. So I got two decoders, right? If I start programming now, I risk actually having both signals being programmed, which is not my intent. I only want to program one of them. So let me disconnect one of the signal I'm not going to program. So that's this one here. I'm going to put it to the side. I'm going to connect everything back up. We can see it here. Yes, I know there's two signals now, the distance signal here and the home distant combo down there. But do remember they're both on the same decoder, so we can actually continue safely. In order to program the signal, well, we first need to go out of stop mode. Then we want to make a locomotive that we can use for programming. So I find a place in my locomotive list where there's no locomotive. I hit Shift Locomotive, and then I can actually scroll down here because now I want to make a new loco. I want to enter it manually. I scroll down till I find DCC. Remember, I put the signal into DCC mode. I hit DCC. And now I want to put in the address of the signal. In this case, it's address 25. I can use the pluses to go up. I can also use shift knob. So I'm going to use shift knob. That's 23, 24, 25. Okay. I don't care about the name, so I'm just going to hit the check mark. I don't care about the symbol, so I'm just going to choose the first one here. So now I got a locomotive ABC. With the same address as the signal. All right, so now we can go in and change the CVs here using this fake locomotive with the same address as the signal. I hit Shift, I hit the locomotive. So now we can hit the program CV button. We hit that one. Now we have to choose the CV address. All right, we go back in the manual to double check. Where do we have it? We have it here. Signal type distance signal. That's address 46. We want to set it to an entry signal, which is 3. So in 46, we want to put in the value 3. Okay. We look at the mobile station. We want to find 46. I can use the plus and the minus to change the address. I can also use shift knob to jump. So 46, that's 42. We'll adjust slightly using the plus. 46. Now the good thing with programming the signal in DCC mode is we can actually read out the value. So in DCC mode, we can read out the value exactly as we can in MFX mode, which is nice. So I hit the check mark. The value is being read, and we can see it's a 0 now. And now we just need to change that to a 3. 1, 2, 3. Before I hit the check mark here, let's look at the signals. Do remember what I said before, that the signal here, the combined signal, if it was red, it will not show the distance signal below it to avoid confusion. Fortunately, I have it here in green. I suggest you put it in green because then you should be able to see the effect immediately when we actually change the value. So I need to hit the check mark down here and then we should get the value 3. I'll do that off camera so we can see what goes on. I'm gonna hit it now and you see the signal is being programmed. And as you can see, the distance signal now got turned on, which is exactly what we wanted. Okay, so now we can hit, well, let me back out of this menu first. Okay, so we're here. I'm gonna hit stop. I'm gonna add the signal in again. All right. So we have it here. Cool. Now we got all the signals on the line again. And we go back here. I was in stop mode. Okay. So we can see now we have all the signals on. My distance signal actually mirrors the home signal behind it, which is exactly what we wanted. And we can see that the distance signal here in front mirrors that home signal there with the combined home signal. Let me go back to change the signal just to make sure that everything looks okay. I will go to, well, remember 25, 26 is my combined signal where I could hit, if I hit red, then I turn it red. Oh, I forgot one thing, very important. I have to turn my signal back to Märklin. So let me just put it in stop mode. Okay. I have my decoder here. I go to pin 10 and then I turn that off again. So it's not in Märklin mode. Okay. Let's try again. I have here 25. I'm gonna hit the red. I'm gonna do that. Oh, out of stop mode first. I'm gonna hit the red. I'm gonna do that off camera. And now you can see it changed. And you actually also saw the distant light here actually turned off, right? And we see this distant signal here mirrors the home signal here of the combined signal. Okay, let me just go to address 26. I'll turn it to slow. And then you can see it shows slow here, yellow and a green. I don't know if it's easy to see in the video. It's yellow and green on the home. Now the distance signal turned on again to indicate what the following signal is. So address 25 and 26 is our combined signal. Let's go to address 27 and 28, which is the following signal, which is also the one the distance signal should react to. So I'm gonna hit the green here. So when I hit the green, I would expect the home signal behind it to go green, and I would expect my distance signal here to show prepare to proceed. So I'm gonna hit the green here on address 27. Cool, and it actually changed. And we can change it back by hitting the red up here on 27. So I'm gonna do that, and we saw everything changed nicely as it's supposed to. Remember, this is a 3-aspect signal, so we also have a proceed slowly over here on address 28 on the green. I'm gonna do that off camera. And now you can see we got here, it says the on the combined signal, it says proceed slowly. It also indicates here on the distance signal, proceed slowly for the following signal, which indeed we see says proceed slowly. So now we got everything as we want, and all the signals are synchronized and in perfect harmony. Yippee! Now let's look at how we configure and control it with the central station tree. In order to do that, I would actually like to give it a blank address. Basically put it in Märklin mode, which is the dip switch 10. And then I would like to give it basically a blank address. Why do I want to do that? Well, because if I give it a blank address, what I can do is I can just have the central station automatically assign an address such that it automatically deconflicts and make sure there's no other accessory with the same address. As you can see here, there's no light in the signals anymore. That's because I actually have power off. So remember, before you mess with the dip switch, to have power off. I have the decoder here. Let me see if I can get it close. Yes, I can. The easiest way to make this blank is basically just to have everything on off, so which is down. So I just put everything down, and I make sure here the last one, number 10, is set for Märklin mode. And now you can see here everything is on off, which basically means the address is blank. So now we can start by discovering it in the central station tree. Okay, so here we have the central station tree. I got a straight piece of track. I got the home signal I would like to have furthest away. And then now we're going to add the combined home and distance signal. So the home and distance signal will be closer to us here on the screen, and it will actually be the one where the distance signal will show what the home signal does here. And in order to find our signal, we first need to go and discover the signal. Make sure that you're out of stop mode. I'm already out of stop mode. So now I go to edit, I go to discover MFX items, and I want to search for the new signal, which is the 76496, which is an exit signal with a combined home and distant. So I want to look, or when I find it, I want to give it a new address. Okay, so it's going to go out looking. So remember, I already have one signal on there, but now I want to look for the new signal. So let's see what it finds. It looks like it found something. What is it finding? Decoder was red. Ausfahrtssignal, yeah, so that's the exit signal plus V. So I guess that means that it's the with a distant signal. All right, let's see what we have. One item was found, exactly as we expected. Now we can pull down the tab here. Oh, I already have the signals shown here. If they're not shown to you, you can go up to the filter up here, and then you can click on the signals down here, and then it'll show you only the signals. Okay, so we have discovered our MFX items, and we actually see a signal has appeared here. So that's over here, that's the exit signal. And it actually says a little plus V down here. It's giving us the indication there's also a distant signal. The distant signal actually also appears, and you see that over here. So that's the distant signal, which is on the same mast. Now, with some appropriate naming, we can also make sure that we remember this in the future. Otherwise, we're going to risk that it's going to be hard for us to see which distance signal is actually on the same mast. So what I will do is I'll go into edit article list. I'll go over here for my entry signal. I click on the name down here in the lower left corner. I delete the name, and I'm just going to call it signal 1. Okay, I hit the check mark, so now you see the name changed to signal 1. I'm gonna click on the distance signal, and I'm also gonna click on the name on that one here, and I'm just gonna delete what was there. I'm gonna say signal 1 distant. Okay, I'm gonna accept that as well. So now we can see these two actually fit together, so we're happy. Okay, and now to make sure the distant signal here, the signal 1 distant, we need to make sure that it points to the, it links to the correct home signal. And we do that down at the bottom again, name, protocol, address, and it says home signal. And here we can select the different signals. The one I actually want. So remember now I got a home signal and a distant signal on the same mast, and the distant signal, which is the one I clicked on here, I want to link to the home signal behind it. The home signal behind it we see up here on the screen, that's the one called Einfachsignal. So I can basically choose that in the menu here. So I click on that one, and now it's linked to that one. Excellent. So now we have appropriate names for the signal. So I see signal 1 is a combined one. It has the exit part, exit or home exit part, and the distant part. And I got the distant signal linked to the following home signal. We go out of edit again. Now we can basically say edit trackboard page. I can drag the, oh, that's the wrong one. I can drag signal 1 down, which is our exit signal. And I can drag the distant signal portion of it down there as well. So now we have them next to each other. Okay. And now we can try and change the signal aspects and see if everything works. So I click on my signal, I go to green, everything looks good, and the distant signal in front of it changed. I can go back to red, it looks good, and the distant signal in front of it changed. I can go to proceed slowly, and again the distant signal in front of it changed. I can go back to red as well. And then we can do the final mode, which is the shunting. And we see the distance signal changes as well. And now we can go ahead and try the other signal and see if that changes the distance signal on the same mast. So we go and change that to green, and we see it goes to green. And we see the distance signal going to prepare to proceed. And when we change it back to red, it changes, and the distant signal on the same mast again changes, and then we can do proceed slowly as the final one. So, as you saw, very easy to set up on the central station, and everything fits nicely together. Whew. That was a lot of things to think about when we need to install this signal, because it's a combined signal. So let me just repeat. We have the combined signal here, which is a home and distant signal. The thing we need to do is for the distant signal in front of it, we basically just plug it in. So that's basically just as we did for the in the distant signal video. We just need to plug it into the same decoder, and then these two signals will be in harmony. However, for the next two signals here, if we are using the mobile station 2, then when we set the address of this signal, it will set the primary address of the signal and the secondary address. Remember, this signal has 4 signals aspects, so that means it has 2 addresses. So we have to think about that this one has 2 addresses, and then the third following address will actually be the one that has to match the signal behind it, right? Because we want the distant signal on this particular mast to match this home signal over here. So you need to make sure that when you're using only the mobile station, that you have a signal plan for your layout, and you have an addressing scheme for your signals as well. What I did this time in this video was I knew that this signal here, the home signal that I needed to match the distant signal up with, had address 27. I knew that this signal had 2 addresses, so I needed to deduct 2 for this to become address 25. So this will occupy address 25, 26, and then this one signal over here will occupy address 27 and 28. And since they're all in sequence, The decoder of this signal understands how to control the home part of this signal and the distant part in coordination with this one here. So that became very advanced on the mobile station 2, and you really had to think about what you needed to do. One trick though, you could consider programming it in DCC mode, because then you can actually independently program the distant signal here on the mobile station 2. On the central station 3, it was much easier. I already had this signal here in the central station 3, so I just discovered the new signal here, the combined home and distance signal, and basically that resulted in actually 2 signals appearing on my central station 3. One for the home signal part of this and one for the distance signal. I renamed them so I could figure out that they belong together, and then they can actually be completely independent. There's no requirement for addressing or sequential addressing or anything like that between the signals. Of course, each signal will take 2 sequential addresses, so I still need to think about that. However, what I did was, for the distant signal part of this combined signal, I just went and linked that to the following block signal. So it was much easier on the central station 3. I hope you liked this video. Please hit the like button, and please do subscribe to this channel and click the little bell if you want notifications of upcoming videos. Enjoy!